Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 11 of our F125 Aston Martin driver career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here for the Austrian Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live yesterday from Canada, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. For the second weekend in a row, we had a great battle between the drivers on the one stops and the drivers on the two stops. Sadly, for us, it wasn't quite enough to win the Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton will get his first win, I believe, of the season with Ferrari there. We would follow him home in P2, which now means we've had a first, a second, and a third, as well as a fourth so far in this campaign. Max Verstappen takes the lead of the World Championship for the first time there, 12 points ahead of Lando Norris, who has a further 2-point buffer ahead of Oscar Piastri. It must be noted, though, that both McLarens have had a DNF so far this year. Verstappen has seen the checkered flag in every single Grand Prix. Shoutouts as well to Fernando Alonso. He scored points in the last 7 Grand Prix running. So as a team, we're doing really well right now. 8 points back from Ferrari, who definitely have a quicker car than us as well at the moment. If we take a look at the performance chart, you can see we've got plenty of upgrades still in the works right now that is keeping us up with Mercedes as well. Get yourself subscribed if you're new. We're trying to hit 10k subs here on the channel as well. And yeah, let's head then here back to Austria.
High up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
Well, I know I got this wrong back in the My Team video we did here a few days back, but I completely forgot that Austria isn't a sprint weekend inside F125. So it does feel quite weird coming back here. You know, this place has been sprints since sprint racing began back in the game in F122. So yeah, I must admit, it is rather peculiar coming back to this venue and obviously only doing the one race over the course of the weekend. Not that that bothers me too much as we head into qualifying, though. Of course, I'm not even going to try and guess how competitive the car's going to be because I always seem to get it wrong recently. And so far, we really do feel like the team has been going from strength to strength. As long as Alex Albon doesn't hold me up. Come on, buddy. Get out of the way. Thank you. At least give me a little bit of slipstream if you're going to kind of sit in the middle of the road. But we'll navigate by. Of course, not a very long lap here means you can use a lot of battery in a lot of places. Through the final couple of corners, though, well, missing the apex of that final turn. There'll definitely be some time to find on our second run. Still going to be a 104.8, though. That puts us P5. But a little bit disappointing to see our teammate Fernando Alonso so far down the running order as we get ready to start our last lap here at qualifying. But of course, yeah, this place super short. I do wonder if we'll see lap times under a minute for like a maxed out car or something like that inside this game. So we just run a little bit wide over that first curb. Just got to be very careful though. We can use a lot of battery in the early stages of the lap, but I don't want to be compromised right by the end of it either as up the hill. Nice and tidy. Oh, a little bit of a snap of oversteer there as we try to roll on the throttle a little bit early. Got to be nice and careful here. Don't want to do anything to upset the car. Such little time to kind of gain back any lap time you lose, so it is just by getting it all dialed in. As Ollie Behrman rocks up to P6. Lando Norris, first driver to dip under the 104 barrier. That's a very good lap time by our fellow Brit there as well. Ran a little bit wide. That's not going to allow us to carry much speed down in towards the final couple of turns, but there's still a 10.5 up at the moment, as we are seeing lots of surprises coming through at the moment. Oh, a little bit wide through the penultimate corner. Much tidier, though, through the final corner. Max Verstappen goes to the top of the board. We end up P6. That's all right. The lap was a bit scrappy. Well, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris both love this venue, so not too surprising to see them at the front of the order. About quarter of a second gap then back to Hamilton and Tsunoda, followed by another quarter of a second gap back to Charles Leclerc, myself, and pretty much everybody else there. Oscar Piastri, though, again down in P14 after his mechanical failure last weekend. Alonso, P16 in our other car, so not exactly what he would have wanted. I think we're going to have to fly the Aston Martin flag today.
Welcome from the beautiful Styrian Mountains for another chapter in the story of the Austrian Grand Prix. The Spielberg circuit then is situated 700 metres above sea level, with just 10 corners making up one of the shortest laps of the season. One time around here is a distance of around 2.6 miles, with the best overtaking chances into turn 1 or the tight uphill of turn 3. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Lando Norris lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Tsunoda, Charles Leclerc, Mr. Monaco, Antonelli, Russell, Sainz, and Esteban Ocon, Lawson, Gasly, Ollie Behrman, and Piastri, Hulkenberg, Fernando Alonso, Jack Doohan and Gabriel Bortoleto, Albon and Isaac Hadjar rounds off the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. So much to talk about on what is such a short lap. It's the fastest lap times of the season, but that doesn't mean it's not a challenge.
It's a real challenge to get right this circuit. Lots of tight corners linked up with very long straights. You've got 3 DRS zones as well. That means that the racing is often very close, and you can hang on to potentially a faster car if you can stay within that 1 second buffer. But you've then got some higher speed corners like turn 6 and 7 in the middle of the track, and then the 2 final corners as well. Track limits. Yep, there we go. I mentioned it. Be careful.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Well, a rather wise warning there from Anthony Davidson. You have got to be very, very careful around this venue today. Of course, the luxury of doing 2 series on this game is that I already know that Austria is brutal for tyres inside F1 25. It's never been much of an issue on previous games, but medium, hard is definitely going to be the way to go today. I cannot see a 1-stop being viable for us, and the last couple of races, the 2-stop has worked quite well nonetheless. 5 red lights are on though here in the Styrian Mountains. Oh, and it is going to be lights out, and away we go there. Oh, Leclerc and I almost met in the middle as we will get a fantastic launch, but look at Hamilton around the outside of Verstappen and Norris in towards turn 1 there as we will go 3 wide with the other Ferrari and Red Bull through turn 1. A little bit of contact with Yuki Tsunoda, but we will all get away with it there as again we will go 3 wide as we try and make our way up the hill. Who's going to come out on top in this scenario? Hopefully it's going to be us as we will launch it into the corner and straight up then into P4. Yellow flags out temporarily, I think due to some Constantine running up, as Hamilton is not going to let Verstappen get away with the race lead without putting up a decent fight here. Maybe still fancies his chances of fighting for the World Championship this year. And look at that, around the outside he'll go. And Lewis Hamilton up into P1 then of this Grand Prix on lap 1 there. So what a start that has been from the Ferrari man. Of course, took victory last weekend in Montreal and will lead the way here in Austria. Lando Norris will be disappointed with his start, dropping to P3. But yeah, I cannot complain either. Gaining 2 places on lap 1. 4 cars from 4 different teams making up your top 4. You just love to see it, don't you? There we go, Verstappen again, straight back to the outside of Lewis Hamilton. We know these two's rivalry is well documented, and I'm sure neither of them will give each other any more space than they absolutely have to, as we're going to try and use our softer tyres to get a run to the outside of Lando Norris there. Look at that, Hamilton immediately going back around the outside of the Dutchman. We will go around the outside of Lando as well, and now we can get the popcorn out. We've got the best seat in the house to watch these two battle.
Great work. That's a new
Verstappen, here we go, to the inside of Hamilton down at turn 1 there. Did not want to wait at all to potentially try and get a run back up the hill, and well, suddenly now we've got an opportunity to go 3 wide for the lead here. Oh, Lewis just able to cover me off there, but we will get down the inside of the pair of them up at the top of the hill, launch it in over the apex curb, and suddenly now we're up into P1.
For now, everything's looking good.
Verstappen and Hamilton still going wheel to wheel off the corner, as I don't know who didn't get the DRS. But we've got to use these medium tyres early on. They fire up so much quicker than the AI's hards. Well, it's all well and good getting to the front of the order nice and quickly in this race, but the other bigger issue we've got...
9.0 seconds.
That's not the bigger issue, that Alonso just seems to be terrible here in Austria this weekend. Yeah, the bigger problem we have is that we can't get out of the DRS range. Of course, 3 DRS zones around this circuit, all back to back, and the AI are so good on the run in towards those final couple of corners that getting to the front was fairly easy. Getting away at the front, impossible. Here we go, Lewis Hamilton then, back around the outside. Again, not really much point in fighting that early on. As it looks like Leclerc now trying to go for a run on Verstappen. Verstappen maybe outbroke himself there slightly and will accidentally look for a move on us.
Verstappen's behind. We want to keep them behind, please. It's critical for our race.
Well, we jumped Verstappen late on in Montreal last weekend. Now we've got to try and keep him at bay this weekend. Oh, Alex Albon, first retirement of the afternoon then, so disappointment for Williams. Clearly can't handle the high altitude here. And I mean, we saw another Mercedes power unit go up last weekend, of course, in the back of Oscar Piastri's car. So I'd be surprised if that's the only mechanical failure we see today. I'm just hoping it doesn't happen to one of our cars yet. Inside this career mode, but anyway, I think already the harder tyres the way to be rather than the mediums. Let's listen in though.
Time last lap 1:08.9. Okay, the gap is less than a second. Okay, they're on old hard tyres. Their tyres are 8 laps old. Okay, we think they've got 2 stops remaining. 2 stops remaining. Okay, so you're gaining by 1/10 per lap.
But there we go, that is very interesting. Team believe Hamilton is also on a 2-stop. So the AI maybe not 1-stopping today. So we're still looking fairly competitive, nice and early. Tyre wear warning light has just flashed up then, so we're going to peel into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Being stuck behind Lewis Hamilton for the second weekend in a row. I hate to imagine how many laps we've spent in second place so far in the last couple of GP.
Keep an eye on your distance to the speed limit line as you approach and make sure you don't
Max, we're pitting! Max, we're pitting! Thank you! I was going to say, please don't try and do that. It's not really the ideal line into the pit lane, but luckily F125 will let you get away with it. As into the pits we will go. Just about get the car slowed down on the anchors there, but I'm hoping to get to about the end of lap 23 on this second stint. I want to do 11, 12, 13 laps on each set of tyres. That was a nice tidy pit stop, but look at that gaggle of cars. Oh, this was not where I wanted to come out. Plenty of traffic now just in front of me. What on earth is going on there? Oh, I almost locked the rears up, trying to get out of the pit lane exit as well. But we're going to re-emerge then all the way down in P15, P16. As Liam Lawson will also get a run on me. But we have got fresh, softer tyres. And on a lot of these guys, just look at that down the inside of 1 and 2 at the top of the hill, immediately making an impact then. And well, we've got to try and keep this going as best as we can. Ollie Behrman up next, of course. All these cars are going to be much, much slower than us, so we've got to try and make an impact. As next up will be our teammate Fernando Alonso. Hopefully Andy Cowell will be on the radio just telling him to get out of the way if I try and get a run. He's also on mediums though, so I wonder if we're going to see Fernando dive into the pit lane as well at the end of this lap. Maybe this is why he's not going to dive out of the way of us, as I almost got a run to the inside of him. There we go, Alonso diving in. So we will get around the outside fairly well choreographed. One of the Ferraris making their way out of the pit lane there. That's Hamilton. Okay, Lewis Hamilton then making his way back out onto the circuit here. So he's been able to maintain what is effectively the net lead of the Grand Prix. But Oscar Piastri, trying to look down the inside. We will try and follow the Australian through there. A little bit of contact with his diffuser, but up into the net lead we will go then of this race as Hamilton obviously needs to try and get those tyres up to temperature. His old teammate George Russell going to try and defend from us, but we will get all the way around the outside then of the Mercedes man. But yeah, there we go, up into the net lead of the Grand Prix. But I knew Lewis was 2-stopping. Please don't tell me that Verstappen and co aren't. It's around the outside of Gasly as well. We've just got so much speed at the moment in the car against these guys, rather unsurprisingly. Around the outside of Pierre, I mean, look how slow Sainz is through those final couple of corners. The hard tyres even not providing him with the grip he needs there. As why on earth are you going defensive? Looks like he's got a bit of front wing damage as well.
Low. Consider changing mode on your MFD, or lift a little with gentle braking into corners to recharge it.
So I think, yeah, all the guys that haven't pit yet, they are attempting a 1-stop here. So we've got to really try and fly over these next few laps. As I said, I want to try and get this set of tyres to the end of 23, but 22 would be okay. Well, Hamilton then has finally made his way through all of those slower cars, and then now the gap's already 2.5 seconds, so we've got a little bit of breathing room to Lewis behind.
Right, we've got some clear track in front of us, so let's make best use of it and make the next lap a quick one. You got this.
What do you think I'm trying to do, Mark? Let's just see how well we can keep that gap to Lewis, but we might have to work together here to try and close in on these one-stoppers. Well, after Verstappen's spin and Leclerc and Norris still trying to trade places at the front of the order, suddenly this race is looking a whole lot better for Hamilton and I. Right now, we're keeping the gap fairly level to the Ferrari, so for the second weekend in a row, Hamilton and I next to nothing separating us. But Kimi Antonelli, though, first one that we've got to try and navigate. He might be diving into the pit lane, though, at the end of this lap. I'm sure we might see a couple of the AI diving in. None of our top three do. Antonelli opts to stay out as well. How far are these guys trying to take those hard tyres? I thought they might just get them over half distance. But yeah, the mediums are surely not going to be fun by the end of the GP. To the outside of Antonelli. Sadly didn't time it so that we get the DRS at turn 1, but I can't complain. Oh, there we go. Verstappen in, Leclerc in. I believe Norris, for whatever reason, is opting just to go one more lap here. Maybe doesn't want to get held up in the pit lane. But we are not that far behind these guys. And we're obviously going to have better tyres towards the end. No, he's not. What on earth is Mark on about? He might well be at the end of this lap. Because... can Mark see the future? I think he can. Okay. Mark Priestley there is a wizard, apparently, inside F1 25. But we've got to try and get these tyres another couple of laps, which they should do quite comfortably. Things are really coming together today. There we go. Norris will finally dive into the pit lane, so we are going to be back into top spot. As I think Hamilton, again, has just been held up a little bit by that Kimi Antonelli trying to pit. No, we're not. We're going to try and extend it one extra one here, just to make sure the hards don't have to go too far. These are really critical laps, though, just like we saw in Montreal, because effectively we've got to try and make the undercut as weak as possible for the AI. Oh, there we go. Tybo warning lights just flashed up, and that was honestly a good reminder, because I completely forgot to pit at the end of this lap as we make our way then into the pit lane nice and tidy. Oh, I'll turn those tyres into 50 pence pieces once again. But Hamilton as well following us in. Didn't want to allow him to get an undercut on us either in this Grand Prix. Come on. Oh, that was not a great stop this time round. Tsunoda will go through, Leclerc will go through, so will Verstappen and Lando Norris.
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
Well, I wasn't certainly going to... My next guess was not going to be Esteban Ocon who was going to go through, but running very, very well then in this Grand Prix. Kimi Antonelli, he's also trying to make the one-stop happen today, but immediately we'll get onto him. Oh, moving around a little bit more in the braking zone than I would like, but around the outside at the top of the hill we will go. Get temperature into those tyres.
Really good job with that target, mate.
Having to use a bit of battery off of the corner as well. But we've just got to try and pick these guys off towards the end, because a win is definitely on the cards today. Here we go, Esteban Ocon into the pit lane then, so hopefully he's not going to hold us up too badly. There we go. I'll get around him fairly tidy there. Could have, we just backed off a little bit more, could have got the DRS off him again. But Tsunoda peels into the pit lane then. We've got a 4.5 second gap to Lando Norris. He, Verstappen and Leclerc are going to be battling for this right towards the checkered flag. And hopefully that'll allow Lewis and I to rein them all in. Oh, yellows, yellows! Oh, I think Verstappen's gone! Max Verstappen late on in the day. After we mentioned in the intro how he hasn't had a mechanical failure this year, Verstappen is out of it. Here at the Red Bull Ring, the team's home Grand Prix. And they will be devastated to see that for their number one. But Verstappen, our second retirement of the afternoon, alongside his former teammate Alexander Albon. That's given Leclerc a bit of breathing room as Kimi Antonelli, he's just sticking with me here. Down the inside will go the young Italian, but maybe he wants to be dragged up to the fight for the win by the end. But I don't want to battle with him too much. Well, in towards the final laps then of the Grand Prix, 8 more to go. And the gap to Norris and Leclerc down under 3 seconds now. Norris, I believe, has got more pace than the Ferrari. His tyres are slightly fresher. But if Leclerc can just keep hanging on to him and they can keep battling wheel to wheel, it will give us an opportunity, a window, a chance into that fight by the end. For the third weekend in a row, it feels like we're doing qualifying laps towards the end of a Grand Prix, just to try and gain some extra places. Oh, and there you go again. You can see Leclerc making the move on Lando Norris. They wind their way up the hill in towards turn 3. These two both have in common the fact that Verstappen has barged them out at the top of the circuit here, but they seem to be working together, just I think to try and keep us at bay. Lando again possibly could have had a look for a run on Charles, but just won't commit to it and potentially cost them both time. Hamilton doesn't look like his tyres are hanging on towards the end. The gap to the Ferrari even, up to just over 4 seconds now. I think Norris is struggling here, and whether he's got damage or something's happened to that McLaren, I got no idea. Can't see any in-plate damage on that car. But as we try and get a run up the hill then, and back into P2 of this race, can we make it work there on Norris? I think he locked the rears up slightly at the top of the hill. Has to spend extra time gathering it up, so we will get around him. And up then into P2. 5 laps to go. Surely we can jump Charles Leclerc and that Ferrari. Not if I have lines like that, though. We followed a Ferrari home last weekend for a P2 finish. I do not want to be doing the same thing today. Tucked up right beneath Charles Leclerc's rear wing. And are we... Oh, Leclerc! Oh, you can't say he's not pushing towards the end of the race. There, a huge moment. I had to get on the brakes because I thought he might bin it in front of me as he got right over that curbing. Up towards turn 3 there, round the outside we will go. Surely we're going to be able to get the power down. And up into P1 with just 5 laps remaining here. Let's just try and build up the gap so we can hang on to it. Will Lewis potentially be able to get up to P2 by the end? Because it looks like, yeah, Leclerc and Norris, their tyres are really starting to fall apart. Well, we've actually just lapped someone in this Grand Prix, except for I don't know who it is. Is that George Russell? It is. We lapped a Mercedes in this Grand Prix there, and now he wants to try and get back past me and bring himself back onto the lead lap as Leclerc now back ahead of Lando Norris as well in this Grand Prix. Those two still squabbling for P2 and P3 here today, but no idea what's happened to Russell. Do I just let him by? I think he's getting the DRS off of us because obviously he's within 1 second. Here comes Russell up towards the top of the hill, but surely he's just going to get blue flags again. Down the inside he'll go, and then immediately back out because he can't not. Very weird. Just sit behind me, Russell. End the lap down. Back to start the last lap then of the Austrian Grand Prix, and it must be said this car has really become quite formidable as we get towards the halfway stage of the season. We were a little bit unlucky, I feel, in Montreal, that we weren't able to quite take the victory. But definitely you can see normally as well, Alonso, pretty much since Monaco, the car, we've really been just figuring out the setups, figuring out what works, what doesn't. And as we are starting to reap more and more of the rewards of the fruits of our labour as well. Russell, desperate to get himself back on the lead lap. Is he going to jump out the way again for us? I don't think he is. Doesn't seem to be any blue flags for him this time, but we will get the DRS there and back to the inside. Of course, very weird that the AI, understandably, won't defend in that scenario. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Just run a little bit wide there. We don't need to risk anything towards the end of the GP. We'll let Russell have it because we are on course to take our second victory of the year here. Monaco was just, well, Monaco inside F1 25. But here today at Austria, we have managed the 2-stop to absolute perfection. Yes, we got a little bit unlucky with Max Verstappen's downfall, but through the final corner, the hills are alive with the sound of Aston Martin. We are back on top.
Absolutely awesome. Just amazing, mate. Well done.
Smiling faces on the pit wall then after that superb win here in Spielberg, and rightly so. A brilliant effort from the whole team.
You always look back at a race like this and think, if I'd just made that mistake there or locked up here, there would have been contact. And every one of those overtakes is a moment where you have to absolutely nail it, perfect it, and that's exactly what they're able to do today. Great stuff indeed.
Aston Martin's performance today has shown that they can be competitive with the biggest names in the sport. They're making their way out to the podium as we speak, and the reaction from the crowd must be incredibly uplifting for them.
Well, after all the battling at the front all day, I kind of forgot we'd started P6 in this one. Of course, made it to the front very quickly, was absolutely committed to the two-stop strategy, and like I said, we have reaped the rewards this afternoon. Back-to-back British 1-2s this season, but this time round it is us on top. Lando Norris comes through for second ahead of Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, who followed him home in P4. Tsunoda in P5, they're flying the flag for Red Bull, ahead of Kimi Antonelli, Ocon, Piastri. Alonso does pick up points with Gasly in that final top 10 slot. Ollie Behrman just ahead of both Saubers. Further down the order, you can see, yeah, it's just Verstappen and Albon who both failed to see the checkered flag. And Russell clearly made another move on that last lap to get ahead of Jack Doohan. Like I said, no idea what happened to him, but Russell, yeah, had a terrible day out this weekend. Lando Norris, though, 5 points now. His gap at the top of the table ahead of Verstappen. Oscar Piastri has only scored 4 points from the last 2 weekends. Meanwhile, we are now only 32 points back from the top of the table as well there. Could we be in the fight in the not too distant future? Hamilton and Tsunoda, some good consistent drives there, have left them not too far away either, ahead of Leclerc and Russell. Antonelli rejumps Alonso with that good result, but our teammates still in P10 as well. Constructors wise, McLaren still with a 36 point buffer ahead of Red Bull. Ferrari still 8 points clear of ourselves, but hoping we're going to be safe from Mercedes throughout the rest of the year as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon ready for our home Grand Prix back at Silverstone.